Hello friends, welcome back. Hope you're doing incredibly well. Today I'm in Luminar Neo and I have three super awesome, super simple, super powerful masking tips that will help you 10x, 100x, I don't know, you'll be very happy. But they will 10x at least your results and your appreciation for masking and your happiness with your results, not to mention your accuracy. I think you're gonna love these, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I've got a landscape here. I've already done a few things to this photo. Before and after, basic stuff that I always do. Develop raw, super contrast, took some spots and a drone out of the sky. You name it, I did a few things. That's where I am. And this is the first masking tip I want to talk about. This is a fall image from Colorado from a couple of years ago. I'm going to go into color. And one of the things I love to do is go into HSL, especially with fall images, and isolate specific colors so that I can adjust them. I want to lean into the fall look. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into hue first. And I'm going to take the oranges, I'm going to make them a bit more orange. I'm going to take the yellows, make them kind of orange. I'm even going to take the greens and move them kind of toward the yellow as well. And what that's doing, as you can see, is shifting some of these color tones. But I'm not done. I'm going to take the saturation for those same three color channels and bump them up a little bit. So it's going to be orange, yellow, and green, slightly more saturated, getting that more intense fall color. Well, I adjusted the hue, I made them more saturated. I also want to make them a little bit brighter so they stand out a little bit more. So orange, yellow, green, slightly to the right, slightly brighter. And in the trees, in the center section of the photo, looks great. Clouds, don't like it. Foreground, don't like it. Well, here's masking tip number one. You can go in with the mask, and can you get a brush and do this? You bet. You can get a brush and just paint it in if you want to. But there's another mask, because if you're thinking about color in HSL, what you're doing is isolating color. Well, a great way to isolate color even more specifically is with a color mask, also known as a color range mask. You just click on the photo wherever you know the color exists that you want to really isolate. So for me, it's kind of these light green, kind of yellowy whatevers, that color. So I'm going to come in somewhere maybe like that, and I'm going to pick it, and oh man, there's a lot of that color in this photo. That mask is almost the entire foreground except for the top of the mountains. Well, I don't want that. Well, that's where the range slider comes in. So all you do is you just drag it to the left and you start reducing the range. And when you get down here pretty low, what you find is I'm at a 4, and what you find is a lot of those trees are isolated, and the only thing that's left is a little bit of stuff in the foreground, and I might even take that to a 3, and that is just about perfect. So I've been able to use the color HSL tools to isolate specific colors, and then more specifically a color range mask to also help me put that color look that I achieved with HSL into specific areas. So if you look at the before and after, it's kind of subtle, but it's contained. And so that gives you a ton of control. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the saturation and vibrance, which isn't something I normally do, but I can get away with it because I've isolated that specific area. So now those trees are sticking out, popping out, and showing a bit more fall color because I made those adjustments with HSL and controlled it with the color mask before and after. That's tip number one. Now, tip number two, if you look at the sky, I generally like to adjust my skies pretty much in every photo. And what I'll often do is come in to develop. Now, when I say I want to adjust the sky, you might think, oh, I know how to do that, Jim. The best way to do it is go to Mask and go to Mask AI and click on Sky. And you know what? Honestly, it does a great job. But there's a big but here, and the but is that these masks, these AI masks are incredibly useful, and we're going to use one again in a minute with another trick, but it's there's no gradient edge. And what I mean by that is, if you look here, let me zoom in. I'm at 47. Let me go to 300. If you look along the edge, there's a halo, right? It doesn't know the perfect exact edge, and it doesn't fade into that. So it's just mask. All this pinkish red area is 100% of the mask. And then you're going to have this little fringe where there's no mask at all, and then you're going to have mountains. Well, that doesn't really work, because what I want to do is I want to undo that and get rid of it. What I want to do is slightly drop the exposure. So if I actually, let me just reset that. If I drop that to, let's say, -1, actually, you know what? I need to reset the mask, I believe. Let me get the sky mask. There we go. And now let me set this to -1. on the exposure, and boom. The thing is, it's a uniform drop in exposure across the entire mask, which is the entire sky. So not a big deal at -1. You probably can't quite see that fringing, but I can show you, and you wouldn't make this much of a difference in the exposure, but if you look at it, it's very prominent there. And so I do think you have to be careful. Even if you're only at a -1, you still need to be careful because it's uniform. There's no gradient. So let me reset that and just delete it to make sure we really got rid of that. And now I'm going to go show you the way I prefer to do a sky mask. And that is coming in with the mask and a linear gradient because, as the name implies, it has a gradient edge. Well, that gradient edge makes all the difference in the world because that is a soft edge. The other one is a hard edge. Hard edge, light switch transition, a very abrupt difference between what's covered and what's not covered by the mask. With the gradient edge, it's a smooth transition. I love this stuff. You just have the ability to fade your adjustment into the rest of the photo. So you get 100% of the mask up here and it fades from there to this line, and then eventually below that it's all 0. The nice thing is you can make it a fairly short transition. I don't think you want to in a photo like this, or you can make it a really broad transition, which I actually think looks fantastic. And that's what I normally do. You'll also notice that the edge along the horizon where you were seeing that little bit of fringing when I use the Sky AI mask, you're not going to have that because the mask is fading to 0 right around that edge. And so now if I come in and drop this, -1, boom, it's a very nice smooth transition and a lot more natural. It also pretty much mimics like a polarizing filter where you kind of soften that sky, not soften, but we slightly darken the sky, and that's effectively what I'm doing before and after. But zooming in to 300 like I did on the other one, you don't have to worry about that edge. There's no issues there because the mask is fading to nothing around that horizon line, and you can just edit to your heart's content, and you can do other things as well that would keep it from that are not going to show up in a really poorly constructed way, right? I can maybe make it a little bit bluer, whatever. The point is you're taking control of the sky and you're not using that AI technology because you don't really need it most of the time for these kind of skies. So that's tip number 2. Now, tip number 3, I'm going to tell you something opposite of what I just told you. Let's get into that one. Okay, tip number 3, and I'm going to use the same landscape here, and that is when you want to isolate an area that's a particular tonal range, you use a luminosity mask. I do. I'm a big fan of this stuff. I talk about it. You're probably sick of me talking about it, but I talk about it so much because it's crazy, crazy good, and I love it. So a scene like this, I've got snow on the top of these mountains, which I love. I got fall colors. And what I want to do is I want to bump up those whites. I want to make them a little brighter. So I'm come get the whites. And if I drag that, obviously I haven't done a mask yet. So what's happening? Everything's getting brighter because there's whites all across the image. Well, that doesn't work. And that's why you use a luminosity mask. If you're not familiar with those, I talk about them in my Luminar masking course. I got countless videos here about it, all that stuff. But I'm going to isolate by tonal range. So I'm going to go and select these highlight areas because it is mostly the highlights. Now, I'm going to pause the mask about right there. And if you look, don't look at the sky, just look at the mountaintops, right? That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now, can you do that with a brush? Kinda. It's not an edge-aware brush, so you're going to be bleeding over into the sky, especially right there where the whites of the snow are at the very tippy top and the very edge. It's just the brush isn't going to do it. There's not really another good way to do it. Luminosity mask is really the best way to isolate it. But, Jim, look at all that sky. I mean, the sky is just completely covered as well. And if I continue shrinking this luminosity mask, yeah, I get rid of the sky, but I'm also getting rid of my coverage on my snowy mountain peaks, and I don't want to lose coverage there. So here's the trick. You can stack these masks with Mask AI to remove that sky. I call it stack and subtract. I've talked about it here before, but luminosity mask in place, just back up out of that masking menu, go into Mask AI and pick sky. Now, when you do that, it's going to grab that entire sky, just like we did in the previous one, where it didn't really help me to do that polarizing effect in the sky. But in this case, it helps me a lot because what it does is the Mask AI for the sky grabs the entire sky 100%. But the nice thing is when you unclick this, it deselects the same thing it just selected, which is the entire sky. So it takes with it what the luminosity mask had covered. So it removes the luminosity mask in the sky with it. Now I've got a perfect selection. There's no other way really to get that selection in Luminar without doing this stack and subtract trick. So now I come in, my mask is in the perfect place. I just click on the whites, I lift those, and my snowy peaks look fantastic. And they're isolated so well because of that stack and subtract. Luminosity mask minus the sky selection in Mask AI, and you get perfect control. So before and after, and that's 3 different masking tips, tricks, hacks, if you want to call them that will absolutely make you a better editor and get you more enjoyment, I believe, out of using the mask in Luminar. And if you want to learn more, check out my masking masterclass, which is at the link down below. I'll be back as soon as I can, but for the next 10 days or so, I'm going to be rambling right there. I'm going to Colorado to shoot fall colors, and I'm excited about that. So if you want to see behind the scenes, follow me on Instagram, link down below. I'll be sharing some behind the scenes stuff, and I'll be back after that, my friends. Hope you guys are well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Take care of yourselves. See you out there. And until next time, adios.